he
Yeah,
came. He
because
came in.
I haven't seen you in a while. I wanted to ask you, how bad did the Jets screw up the draft for you?
Well, let me tell you something. At least the Jets Stadium, no one takes it over. The Giant fans now might come to the Eagles Stadium and try to take it over when the Giants play the Eagles.
The Giants fans are afraid to come to
Oh,
Philadelphia.
Not
They're
Jesus.
so
according to
afraid. That's
Matt.
why you
Not
never see
according
any
to Matt.
Giants fans there. Plus, Giants fans are fair weather because they're not real fans. That's why their stadium is like three-quarters empty halfway through the season after they've lost the first 5 or 6 games.
I
Okay, you
don't know
got
what to
me on
say.
that. You got me there.
I might even tend to agree with that. So, Pags, you got to be happy with the Phillies as they take over first place from the Braves. Yeah, you got to feel good about that. And I mean, the only thing that happened that may cause you some concern is Trey Turner goes down for 6 weeks. That might affect the Phillies a little bit.
Yeah, actually, and he was doing pretty good. I mean, he was having a obviously a much better start of the season this year than he was last year. Uh, I think that that'll be okay. I mean, obviously, after the 6 weeks, he's going to have to get the rust off and such like that, and that's going to put us into August. But as long as he's good for September, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I don't really attribute. They haven't scored a lot of runs, but it's the pitching that has been really outstanding. That they were showing numbers of this pitching staff in comparison to like some of the Braves staffs of you know with
The 90s?
Smoltz and
Yeah.
Maddox and stuff like Glavin and them.
Yeah.
It's rivaling that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's still early though, Pags. Right? I mean, you're talking about these guys did that for years, so that's one of the best pitching staffs probably in the history of the
Oh no,
major.
no, no. They're just showing the numbers how the season has started
Yeah,
and that we've rivaled them. I mean,
yeah.
obviously Ranger Suarez is, if he's able to keep up this pace, there's going to be no competition for Cy Young. I mean,
Did you
he's just pitching out of this world.
were you
Is the
surprised?
Philly bullpen that it's been a problem in the past? Has the problem been rectified?
Not yet. Uh, Sir Anthony Dominguez is having really big some issues. Soto has not been great. It's so they're if there is a little bit of an Achilles heel on this Phillies team right now, it is the bullpen. But right now we have 6 starters, and I have a feeling that Dombrowski is going to monitor Taiwan Walker and see how he's pitching because obviously he's the new one that came back. And I think he's going to have a short leash. I think he's only going to get like 4 starts. And if he doesn't pitch up to the same way that the other pitchers have been doing, he's going to be the odd man out. And I wouldn't be surprised that there is a movement to move him for maybe for bullpen help.
Yeah. You know what surprised me? Normally, shortstops when they get older, they get moved to third base because they don't have to cover so much ground. Trey Turner was a third baseman and moved to shortstop, and he was having a pretty good year. Pags over at shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, he's not, you know, he's not the greatest defensive shortstop. But I mean, obviously, he's got the speed, so that was the reason why they put him there, that he could cover a little bit of ground. And it's just unfortunate that he pulled his hamstring. You know what I mean? As during that slide, I think it was just every once in a while you have one of those situations, and they had it. I mean, as of up to this point, the Phillies have been healthy.
Yeah.
Congrats to you, Pags, for you guys having the 7 home straight wins. I mean, you guys clearly deserve it right now anyway, so congrats.
Yeah, I mean the Phillies are just a tough out. I mean, you think about it realistically. If it wasn't for uh, the bullpen against the Angels that one game, we would have be on like a 15-game winning streak.
All right, well, there you go. So let's get let's wrap up the Knicks and Philly, the 76ers series. I seen you were there, I think at least at the last game, Pags, that was played. Great. I mean, how can you ask for a better series? Two tough physical teams going at it for 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that we were beaten by Jay Wright's system. I mean, that this team was just the full court press. The Sixers had really no response to. I think it wore them down physically, and it really came out in the end. Like when it came down to the last, every single one of these games came down to the last minute
Yeah.
of play, and that's what makes a great series. The fact that the Knicks won 4 of those games is more a testament to them and them making clutch shots. I mean, Jalen Brunson is really he's amazing to watch. He's just amazing to watch how many times he hit those clutch threes, and that there was no answer to stop him in those last 120 seconds. That it seemed like all game long they were feeding him the ball, and he would go through ebbs and flows. Like he would throw up bricks certain times, and there was some questionable movement on the Sixers coach a little bit, where I thought that Buddy Hield had a hot hand. How do you go from having him be in the hottest hand to not playing him in the third quarter at all? Like, how do you do that? Like, I felt like that was part of what you needed to do. You needed those extra points. You knew you weren't getting anything offensively from Tobias Harris,
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Pax. Tobias Harris, when a team loses the way the Sixers lost to the Knicks, an established team, the fans tend to kind of blame someone. It could be the coach, one of the players. The Sixer fans, are they looking towards Tobias Harris finally that he has to go? And is he getting blamed more than anyone else?
He's getting a lot of the blame. Kyle Lowry, they both were starters and they both scored 0 points. So there's a lot of blame going to those two specific. Listen, the truth of the matter is that Tobias Harris was actually being one of the better defenders and wasn't getting a lot of play in like 4 shots. He wasn't getting a lot of plays called for him. That being said, Buddy Hield was doing just as well defensively against Brunson because he was chasing Brunson everywhere. Like he was just running, he was just following Brunson and covering Brunson nonstop. And at the end, I kind of felt like you didn't need Tobias. You could have used Buddy Hield. And he was finally showing up. It took him 6 games to finally start to show up.
Pax, Mac and myself got into a debate yesterday about Maxey. Mac felt, correct me if I'm wrong, Mac, that Maxey now has established himself as a superstar in the league, one of the best players in the NBA. And I say he's short of that. He's a heck of a good player. I give him his due. A wonderful player, but he's a little short of that true star status. I mean,
I tend to, it scares me to even have to say this. I do tend to agree with you a little bit on that. I don't think he's a superstar. I think he's a budding superstar. He's not quite there yet. He hasn't bloomed yet. He's too inconsistent. A little bit. Like he'll have his games where he can score 25 plus, 30 plus in the game. He'll have games where he's only going to score 20 in the game. And I think you need a little bit more consistency if you're going to say that you're a superstar. I think he's right there on the cusp, but not quite over the hump yet into superstardom.
Well, Jack again misspeaks for me. I didn't say that he was a superstar or has established himself as a superstar. I said he played like a superstar. When you're playing again, and when you're in the playoffs, you've never been in and he's very young. and he's making these shots and he's winning games for you. I mean, you've got to say this guy has a potential of being a future superstar in the NBA.
That I agree with. That is correct. And listen, the Sixers, among any other team, have put themselves in a situation where right now there are two players on this team, Embiid and Maxey.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot happening over the next year. And I kind of feel that with all these other teams going to be hamstringed by being able to make moves because of the contracts they have put themselves in, the Sixers are going to be one of the only teams to be able to change the roster around into a situation that's going to be much better than what they have been.
Well, I got a question. Thanks. So how much longer does Embiid have playing at a high level, considering all of his injury history?
So, I mean, last year he didn't really get injured. This year, the Bell's palsy was really starting to affect him. You could tell there were certain things that occurred that really was un-Embiid like, So who knows? You know what I mean? There's a piece of me that says I wouldn't mind him not playing the first 60 games, and just only playing the last 20 games. I don't know how they're going to contend with that. Like, that's going to be the biggest issue. I feel that, again, part of everybody's talking about how we need a real big man to back him up. I personally think that he needs to not be a 5 anymore. I don't think he needs to be a center. I think he should be a forward. What does it matter? I mean, he doesn't play like a center. He doesn't go down and rebound unless he feels like it doing that. He only game 5 was the only game he was down there rebounding. Every other game he's playing like a shooting forward, not even a power forward. So I don't understand why we couldn't go for. That's one of the things I need them to do. I need them to pick up 2 serviceable big men. Like Andre Drummond on this team Andre Drummond on this team wouldn't have needed to score any points at all. All we would have needed was 15 to 20 rebounds a game, and we would have won this series.
Pags, Andre Drummond hasn't helped any team for years.
Rebounds.
Well, he's not going to be a difference maker. He hasn't made a difference for years.
It doesn't matter. No, again, I'm not looking at him to score points. I'm looking at him to rebound. The Sixers lost this series on rebounds alone.
That's true.
Rebounds alone was the biggest thing. Those offensive rebounds, we got crushed on the offensive moves. And that was just hustle. That was just straight hustle on the Knicks' part.
You know what else I saw, Pags? That's what I was just going to say. I mean, that's what I was going to say. The Knicks were diving for the balls. All of them are going to dive for the balls where the 76ers weren't. Maxey was energy. Definitely he would have done it. But it didn't seem like they were willing to get down and dirty with the Knicks.
Kyle Lowry was hustling all over the place. Say what you want about him. He was hustling as hard as anyone on the Knicks.
Are rebounding, like you said. So
is it me that got frozen or is it him?
It's him.
Okay.
I don't know what that tags, but
well, I tell you, just to go what he was going off of. You're right. The Knicks were out hustling us. I mean, you could tell that the age of the Sixers showed across the board, and obviously Maxey was similar in age to a lot of the Knicks, but they just had youth on their side. I mean, they played Jay Wright's system to a T. That's why I asked on Wednesday if the Knicks were to lose this series, do you think that they would let Thibodeau go? And with Kyle Lowry being an unrestricted free agent, and the Nets being such a dumpster fire, you could almost have a total Villanova team.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, Pat. We're talking about fan loyalty before you came on. Knicks have 3 players from Villanova, okay, who are key in this. What is the reaction? Obviously, the Sixer fans are rooting all out for the Sixers. We know that. But what is the reaction towards the Knicks players who played for Villanova? Is there a warm feeling, at least, for them? They're not rooting for them, of course. They're rooting against them. But is there that
no warm feeling? No warm feeling. There has been a lot of sentiment that Villanova is not Philly. Villanova is not in the city limits, and that was the sentiment most of the time.
So it's not like favorite sons are coming up, because I know, like, when a player like Mark Jackson left the Knicks, he played for St. John's. He'd come back to the Garden with the Indiana Pacers. He wasn't a fan favorite anymore. When he was in the enemy territory. So I guess it's that same way with Brunson, Hart, and Cole. Former Villanova guys, no sentiment. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it may have dulled the sting a little bit, but not enough for us not to complain about it, or at least not for sports talk callers to not complain about it. I mean, truth of the matter is that we're not complaining about the Knicks play. We're complaining more about how the Sixers played. How is it that a $40 million a year player gets 0 points and takes 2 shots in a win-or-go-home game? And that's really what's affected them.
Is Mac frozen now? I think he is. Let me ask you this. Let's get to the point. Is Joel and Sonia James, you could chime in. Is Joel Embiid a dirty player?
No.
What went on in the series? Grabbing Mitch Robinson's leg, Jalen Brunson swiping him along the face, making it look like he was going for the ball. He was getting a karate chop on the face, Jalen Brunson.
Yeah,
he was making it like he was going for the ball.
You guys won the series. Stop crying. You won the series. That's all I heard was Knicks fans crying. Knicks crying every play. Oh, my Lord.
He just got desperate, and he played very aggressively.
I agree, Pat.
I think it's more desperate too. I agree with that.
I agree, Pat.
Very aggressively. It wasn't like him being a dirty player. Jack is always stirring the pot.
Series is over. Series is over. We won. Who cares if they were punching each other? I don't care right now. We're supposed to be. Pax, the offseason. The Knicks and the 76ers are going to compete again in the offseason for free agents. The 2 free agents I hear most about is, of course, Jimmy Butler, who was a former Philadelphia 76er.
He's not a free agent.
Not a free agent.
I know,
traded for.
But with this, he wants an extension on his contract for something $101.6 million. They're not going to give him that. So he may opt, or they may opt to let him go play where he wants to play. Miami, of course, for Miami, Philadelphia. He played with Philadelphia before. There's one other, me and Jack were talking about, free agent that's going to be out there that can opt out from the LA Clippers, Jack.
Paul George.
Paul George. Another one
that's going to be. Not Harden, that's for sure. That won't be a Philly reunion with that.
and of course, Donovan Mitchell has been talked about going to the Knicks all year. So those are probably your 3 free agents that are available. Of course, there's going to be more. So what does Philadelphia do? Do they go after Miami and that big personality, Jimmy Butler, or do they go after a guy with a less of a personality, Pegs?
Well, I think the Jimmy Butler talk is only because he has such a good relationship with Joel Embiid. And I don't know that Jimmy Butler moves anywhere. You know what I mean? I think that it's just, Pat Riley's not going to just give him up. And the Sixers only have draft capital. So, I mean, the Sixers going to give up a couple of number 1s and stuff like that to get Jimmy Butler. I don't think he's worth it like that. the Sixers are in the unique possibility where they could sign 2 bona fide superstars. I heard that because of the way the Clippers went out, that there is talk that Kawhi Leonard might be available. I mean, obviously Harden's not going to, come back to Philly, but I mean that there's going to be a number of players that are going to be available to sign for max deals because of those new CBA that no other team is going to be able to take on because of it. Everybody thought that Dame Lillard was going to be the next coming, and you see that he went out of the playoffs before we did. So,
yeah.
Well, Damian Lillard played when he was hurt that
injured.
last game.
Yeah.
He came back. I mean, he didn't
injured.
dog it at all. Giannis was out, so that
Exactly.
obviously had to be a major factor.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that, hey, listen, it was like everybody thought he was going to be the answer and make that team so much better. And then they bring in Doc Rivers, and Doc Rivers just made him
let
worse.
me ask Max one question. A non-76 team with the Milwaukee Bucks. Doc Rivers came in during the year. Him being with them next season, having a full training camp and giving the Bucks his expertise on how you play defense and everything else. Are the Bucks serious NBA title contenders next year?
Nope. Actually, the only thing that would have made this more Rivers-like was if they were up 3-1 and lost the series. That's the only way that, I mean, he talked about how bad this team was all year long and didn't do anything about it. It's like they brought him on. They were the second best team in the league when they brought him on. And all he did was give them a losing record.
Well, I think next year they're going to be East contenders at the very least, just by having Giannis there, Lillard there another year. I mean, they got to make some changes. They definitely got to make some changes.
Hey, listen, Dame Lillard is like 2 years younger than Jack. So it's like I don't suspect that he could still score like 35.
I mean, you can't criticize Damian Lillard how he played this year. He had a really good year.
You can, because all he does is shoot the rock, and sometimes he's hot, sometimes he's not. And there are more times than not that he is like 9 for 36.
No, he didn't have that type. He had a good year.
I have a question for you, Pags, and for whoever else. So we're literally we've gone into the conference semifinals, and it literally looks like a changing of the guards. We don't have, Giannis, LeBron, Embiid, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, or Damian Lillard. Now that we're at this stage in the finals, do you guys think it's a changing of the guard in the NBA, or this was just an off season?
I think it's a change in the guard. You got to stay young, and that's how you continue to win. And the Lakers didn't really do that, and the 76ers really didn't do that. I know that the Bucks did not do that. You at least got to keep younger players coming in and rejuvenate the offense and the defense and the excitement. A lot of teams just didn't look happy playing. The Lakers, a lot of times I watched their games, and they didn't look happy at all. It's a job. But you look at Minnesota Timberwolves, they're having a blast right now. The Knicks seem to be enjoying the season. Of course, it helps when you win. But still, I mean, the total overall attitude, I mean, if you have a kid like Edwards on your team, how can you not be excited about playing basketball? And that's what the teams need to do. The Warriors, again, they weren't happy all year either. So
I think it's the age.
Yeah, not only the age, but the attitude too that comes with the age, right, Sonia? I mean, even though you could tell LeBron loves basketball still. I mean, at his age.
But I think what I'm saying is, like, the older they are, like, if they have this mentality like we've been here before, it's almost like when the Patriots just won back to back to back. They almost feel like they're entitled to be there, and it's like the game is not the same if they're not there. That's what I mean by the age. If you're a veteran you've been there so many times, you just don't appreciate it the same.
That's part of it, but there's really not a team, a dynasty team anymore. The closest was the Golden State Warriors, right? But there's no really teams of dynasty anymore like the Celtics were and the Lakers were. It's more competitive. It's more equal. But I'm telling you, no matter how old your team is, you got to bring in young players. You got to bring in a Maxey to make things exciting again and to bring some scoring in. That's what makes teams relevant.
There's a changing of the guard. Look at all the teams that came out of nowhere. OKC is still alive. I mean, a few weeks from now, it's conceivable OKC could be in the finals. I mean, I wouldn't rule out their chances completely. They're playing Dallas. They have a 50-50 chance in that series to go to the Western Finals, and who knows what's going to happen there. And look at Orlando at Game 7 with Cleveland. And all these other teams, even that didn't make the playoffs, like the Houston Rockets, they're no longer a doormat team. A lot of these, weak links have taken a leap up, and the more established teams, the Golden State, the Lakers, the 76ers to an extent, the Bucks, they're out.
Hey, well, I also felt that this season, the first round of the playoffs, the two teams that were matched up against one another were too well matched up for the favorites. Like I said, I thought that the Knicks matched up better with the Sixers than the Celtics did. I thought that the Sixers would have had a better series against the Celtics than they would have against the Knicks. I thought the Knicks were just too their style of the way they played was too much for the Sixers in the first round. Had the Sixers fallen to the Celtics, it'd have been a much different series.
That's a great point.
I think that the Sixers and Celtics would still be playing a Game 7.
I think it's a great point, Pags. They're more a half court team the Celtics are than the Knicks are. The Knicks are a full press. We're gonna come after you. Celtics are a little bit more laid back. They play half court. They pick and choose their spots. So I think it's a great point. I'm not saying the Celtics would have lost against 76ers.
Right. The Celtics may have won. They do have a lot of talent on that team, and obviously they were the best team in the NBA for a reason. But you also look at Indiana versus Milwaukee. Indiana's style just defends against Milwaukee really well. Same thing with OKC versus who they were playing. And I guess the perfect scenario is watching that Clippers series against Dallas. That's why, and Harden did exactly what Harden does in Game 7s, stinks. And, but that was, the two teams matched up really well.
Yes.
Yep. It's just this first round was more indicative of a semifinal round rather than a first round. This was more indicative of a second round than a first.
There's a combination of the change in the guard. There's a combination of between the changing of the guard and injury. Not having Giannis made a big deal for the Bucks. That just not being able to play at all. So, but I'll tip my hats off to Indiana, and it's going to be a tough series between them. And they're playing the Knicks, right?
They're playing the Knicks.
Yeah,
Indiana has no chance. Indiana has no chance. If the Knicks can keep up the energy, you're going to see a Knicks Celtics, Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Pags. Speaking of energy in Philadelphia, July 13th, Jaron Boots and Ennis, budding superstar in boxing, is fighting in Philly. Is he going to get the support of the fans? This is a big test for the Philadelphia fans, whether they come out, whether Philadelphia could still be a big-time fight city, because he's from Philadelphia. Keep that in mind. So does he get the support, you think?
The hardest part is that he's a boxer, and boxing is dead. Boxing is dead. It's such a shame. We talked about this a little bit on Wednesday. Boxing needs another Don King. They need somebody. They can't have these boxers talking. That's part of the problem. You could tell some of these boxers are not the best for being able to give them sound bites. They've lost some of the WWE portion of boxing where you're just not excited about some of these fights. It's hard because the people that love boxing are closer to your age than they are Sonia's age. You know what I mean?
There's a
And
lot.
that's
No, the popular ones are not the best fighters. The big mouths like the Ryan Garcias. They get these social media followings.
the biggest fight coming up. The biggest fight coming up is Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul,
It's just
and that's
pathetic.
because Jake Paul is got some of the WWE portion of him. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why that's even working. And that's the problem. They don't have somebody who is promoting them properly. Everybody's got fingers in pies. Everybody's worried about the money portion rather than actually promoting good boxing. And that's the issue.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the promoters are not promoting like they used to. I mean, you're asking a boxer to go out there and promote himself, and he has no training in that. It's not his job. It's the promoter's job. I don't even know why they have promoters anymore, Jack. I mean, they used to go out, at least put up articles on telephone poles or something. Pass
I
out
think
flyers.
it's changed with social media. We're living in a completely different world. Those things are outdated. Newspapers are irrelevant basically today. I mean, it used to be what's in the newspapers, and you'd even take the great sports reporters like Dick Young, okay, who used to have all this power as a columnist for the New York Daily News. It's not that way anymore.
Well, and I mean, I think that it all starts a little bit from, when you were president of the Boxing Association, there was a lot of articles. People were very interested in boxing. You had the wide world of sports, which I think also inhibited boxing because you would have some of these smaller 4-round fights that you'd watch, and they would be energetic and lively, and they'd be fast, and you'd see them, and then you could watch that guy grow. You don't see any of those 4-round fights anymore.
Pax, the point I'm trying to make, certain fighters, you take like Terrence Crawford, if he's fighting at home in Omaha, they show up. They pack the arena in Omaha. Okay, there's no site fee like Las Vegas.
Yeah, because they don't have anything else happening in Omaha. There is nothing else to do except the only thing else that comes out of Omaha is the Mutual of Omaha, the insurance company. So they got nothing else going on, so they show up for that if anything happens. In Philadelphia, there's a lot more things going on. So they're not – I know Philadelphia's a boxing town, and I hope they show up for this young man. But – you mentioned his name, and I barely know who he is.
Your guy. Bruce
but I don't even know his name is the problem. That's the problem. I could name you tons of boxers from the past. The Hagler Hearns fight. When it used to be Gotti versus the Irish
Mickey
guy.
Ward.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was like those were Hector Macho Camacho and De La Cruz and stuff like that. All those guys were like main guys.
But you're right, Pags, as far as personalities go. People don't consider Floyd Mayweather's fights weren't exciting. He was in a way a boring fighter. He would just shut down the opponents. Yet he was charismatic because of the personality or for whatever reason. And fans would tune in. They wouldn't think that they're not getting the most entertaining fight.
And what's been the largest fight up until what happens with this Mike Tyson fight? Because I think this Mike Tyson fight's going to eclipse that. What's been the largest fight up to date over the last 5 years?
It's got to be Crawford. There's got to be
no,
Crawford.
wasn't even that. Wasn't even that. Watching the MMA guy, with the bad whiskey. Go and fight, what's his name, for $400 million.
Oh, Conor McGregor and Mayweather.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's been the
yeah.
biggest fight that everybody watched for, in the last 5 years. Because I remember I stopped what I was doing to go find the fight, to go watch that fight. And like I said, when it registers on my radar, when that registers on my radar, then at least I can gauge it. None of these
It
other
becomes an
fights.
event. Would you guys agree the Super Bowl is a lot more than just a championship game? What makes it so big isn't just that it's the final game to decide the NFL championship. It's an event. People get together. What are you doing? They go to a party, company, or if they're watching the game alone, they go shopping, they get themselves some food, they order in, or whatever. But it's like on their social calendar, the Super Bowl in a way. And now what they're going to do, Roger Goodell said, they're moving the game back 1 week. So
How about that? Just what I've been saying all along.
The people that have to go to work the next day. They could be out all night partying.
That was the purpose on going to. I've been. How many times have I said this? Going to the 18th game. And the other thing is, you're going to watch every team. Every team is going to wind up having one game away, overseas somewhere.
Well, the Eagles play in Brazil. Wait, they play in Brazil. What game is that?
Game one.
Game one. You know, I don't go for that. Opening game somehow in Brazil, you know, that should be in front of one of the home teams. I mean, it's.
You know what? There's so many things that got screwed up with this game. There's so many things that got screwed up with this game. First off, they never really considered who is going to play at this game, and the fact that they don't allow green in the stadium. You got one team that's got green in the name. And you're going to sit there and the two teams that are green and in the stadium where they don't allow green. Good work, NFL. Good work. I tell you, there's a lot of things that they did that were odd.
Pax, what's the reason they don't allow green in the stadium? I don't understand.
So the Corinthian, that stadium, the team that they have the biggest rivalry with. I mean, soccer rules the world in Brazil. So their biggest rival is green. So they don't allow green in the stadium because there's been too many. Like, they've had fans go and blow up the headquarters of this team. Like, this is a whole different level of fandom down there. Like, when I go down there, I have to be careful on what I have to wear because wearing green into that stadium is not going to be allowed.
Yeah.
And I've already spoken
none of your
to
Philly stuff. Then you can't wear none of your.
You imagine, guys, the danger in this. It takes just one player to be detained, and then the rest of the NFL players upset. They never want to go overseas, and the NFL has such a mess on their hands, and then it becomes a government issue.
Let me tell you, the NFL is already on top of that. They're not going to have a situation like happened with that young lady who went to Russia. These guys are getting scanned beforehand, before they even get onto a plane, and before they get back onto a plane. These guys got to go through all these different protocols because the NFL will not get embarrassed.
And let's be clear, the NFL has their legal team already involved in these treaties with other countries because the league is trying to literally be on every continent. I know that they are literally trying to make this a worldwide thing. And so best believe, like Tag said, there's not going to be another Brittany Griner situation because the legal teams are involved. They're familiarizing themselves with the laws in other countries, things that we allow here that they're not going to allow. So their whole thing is it's a money market. It's always about making more money. But I'm like Jack said, I don't agree with the opener being overseas. To me, that just kind of takes away from kind of like our American tradition, one of our favorite pastimes along with baseball. To have an opener overseas, I just don't agree with that at all.
Well, I mean, opening game is still going to be Kansas City, that Thursday game. This is a Friday game at 7:30 at night. It's going to be odd. I mean, because it's going to be an 8:30 at night game there. The very next day is Brazilian Independence Day.
Oh, wow. So,
I mean, I got to imagine, in an off-the-record conversations, I have to imagine the NFL has had to pay off these cartels so not to cause big issues.
Thinking that. Yes,
and when our group went down there, to check
Oh, come on,
to
Pags.
find out whether like where
What
they
is
should
this?
stay at.
And you agree with them, so you
What
agree
is
with
this?
Pags
This is
now
the
I was just thinking
movies.
about the
that the
cartel. It's
NFL
not
is
that I
paying
agree.
off
I'm just thinking the
cartels.
cartels are dangerous.
They're
They're dangerous.
Hey, listen, there's
They're
no joke
dangerous.
about that. There's
Well,
no
Now
joke
we're
about
going
that.
Dangerous.
into
I could,
conspiracy theory area.
I could see the Brazilian government making arrangements with the cartel. The NFL's not going to get involved with the cartel.
But Pags got an Italian last name. He knows these things. You know his last name. Okay, let's be real.
His sources told him that.
Hey, we don't talk about that stuff. We don't talk about that stuff at all.
That's
I don't.
Yeah,
Just because
yeah,
I have an
yeah.
Italian last name doesn't mean that I have any connections. And yeah,
Not
just
like
everybody else
that,
better
but I'm
watch their
saying,
mouth
you
just
know
in
it's
case.
serious. No, it's just the fact that you know it's serious.
Listen. The NFL. Can you imagine the headlines if they ever found out the NFL got involved with a killing, drug dealing organization? That. Come on. Let's be realistic.
Listen,
Rico.
listen. You
Brazilian
don't think
NFL
Roger Goodell? You don't think Roger Goodell could manage that? Every problem that happens in the NFL disappears. Poof.
This
And
is
you're gonna talk about this. Yeah,
This
I'm
is a
sure
little-
there's layers. I'm sure there's layers
This
of
is
look
a
at
little.
Robert
This
Kraft
is a
between the
online
little.
NFL
down
and the
there
This
throwing
is a
people
little.
charges.
This is a little bit bigger than Dan Snyder. Okay, it's just a little bit bigger. Pags, I do agree with you that the Brazilian authorities will be dealing with the cartel down there. But guess what? If one
Who do
thing
you
happens,
think runs the Brazilian authorities?
Right.
This is a
America
whole
is
different world
strong.
down there. Whole
Yes.
different world down there. It's.
if
I've been to
one
Rio.
thing-
I've been to
if-
Rio. So
but I
Colombians. The
and I
Colombians.
kind of like the music. I heard the song, right? But anyway, if one thing happens, if a car is blown up, if a bus is blown up, if any NFL player is hurt or injured on this trip, there's going to be hell to pay to the NFL, and I'll tell you that right now. So you can't be 100%. You cannot be 100% sure that nothing's going to happen. And it would be
no, you never can be
Yeah, you
100%
can't.
about anything.
Can't even be
So
that
in
way
fact, that's
here.
what I was talking about when our team went down there to talk
Yeah.
about. Hey, say, listen, we're bringing about 200 to 300 people down there. The people that we were talking to saying, well, with that many people, you should maybe only have about 8 to 10 cell phones, wallets, passports stolen. We're like, no, we need that number to be 0. They're like, oh, if you want that to be 0, you're going to this spot, and that's it. And
Yeah.
this is how much money you're going to have. Guarded buses, with you could say police, but the police are, really the cartel.
and-
You have to go through
There's
these. Yeah, so there's
I
lots that's got to be done. Lots
I
that's
just
got to
want
be
to
done.
interject that I agree with Pags. I visited Puerto Vallarta, and even when you take like the transfers, I've seen the cops on the side of the road with rifles out, like part of the whole. I've seen that, so this is not something I've heard. So when you
Yeah.
go to these countries, it has to be like they say, American dollars and power is strong. There's a reason why our country is respected and reverenced the way we are, because we are very powerful. And so I would not put it past them. Not saying, the NFL is involved with RICO and all these other crimes, but they have to get involved to contain the situation so it's safe enough for us to go down there and participate in these games.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, and I'm nervous. I gotta feel like I'd be a mark. I'm a known guy. I'm somebody who's going to stand out in the crowd.
And
If
you're
they went and kidnapped me,
expendable.
I'd be gone
Right.
forever because ain't nobody paying any money to come get me.
You're
And you can
expendable
disappear
also.
anyway. You just disappear. Nobody finds you.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
no,
So-
because it does them no good to just kill me. They would have to, say, listen, we want $10 million for your number one fan to come back. And they would be like, just kill him.
Well, we hope we don't have to replay this show and remember this was said.
Alex, I saw you on ESPN during the draft, and you were like yelling out some stuff. I couldn't make out what you were saying. What were you yelling?
When?
during the NFL draft.
Oh, Jack, you sound like a hater. You know.
Oh
that
no,
man
I
was
was
cheering
I,
and
I
going.
was only yelling good stuff like Eagles chants,
Right.
go Birds, stuff like that. When Brandon Graham went up there and said Dallas sucks all day, Dallas sucks, I was like, yeah, go Birds and stuff like that. I keep it all 100% positive because they're always showing my face at the draft. I own the draft. I own the draft.
Let's stop talking about the Philly sports guy and all his great accolades, including being a real estate what is he, a connoisseur or something, as he's telling
Hey, listen,
people what blocks
I
to
get
put in.
interviews now from everywhere. In fact, I'm being
Yes.
interviewed by London here in a few minutes at
Right.
1:00. I'm being interviewed from London because we're about to go overseas to go play Phillies game with
There
the
you go.
Mets.
Well,
And,
thank you for coming on my
awesome.
show that one time, Pags.
Yeah.
I sure can't find a time to book you anymore.
and tell the queen we said hi.
It's
Last
the king
thing-
now. There's a
let's-
king. The queen's
Yes.
dead.
Yeah, the
Well,
queen passed
Well,
away.
that's a little
Wow.
the way he acts sometimes. The way he acts is more like a queen. Anyway,
Oh.
let's talk a little NHL before you go.
That's going to get us banned.
Boston did not suffer the same nightmare as last year. They did get by Toronto into the second round. Pags, how far can Boston really go?
They're playing Carolina. Carolina's going to be a really tough out.
Right.
There's been talk about Rod Brindamore leaving, the coach leaving Carolina. I think that depending on how much of that is true, if there is some of those issues occurring, that's going to weigh into this series, and it could weigh in really good or really bad. And I can't tell you that. I can't tell you how much. I think the problem is that Toronto suffered what they suffer every year. Toronto is the one that really had that problem. I know that Boston actually wound up in a good spot there because had they had to play at the 8th seed, had they wound up at the number 1 seed, they may have had a problem against Washington.
Yeah.
So and Boston's playing who right now? They got I'm a little backwards because it's the Rangers in Carolina. It's going to be Boston versus
Is it Florida?
who?
Florida
Is it
Panthers.
Florida?
The Panthers. I don't think Boston's got a shot. I think that Bobrovsky is going to shut them down.
Could I say the way the game ended yesterday, very bizarrely, the way the Bruins won in overtime, the way the puck deflected off the sideboard and came right in front of the net. I mean, weird deflection.
That's the 4th time in the playoffs those weird deflections have come into play. They are finding these spots in the board, and they're using them properly.
You thought that was designed by the Bruins?
No. It's not designed. It's so the puck will do that. If you hit it in the right spot, it'll bounce out in front. And like I said, it's happened 4 times in this playoffs, and the players know this now. They know that if you hit it in the right area, then sometimes if you hit it in the wrong area, it's just going to run around the boards. If you hit it in the right area, it's going to pop back out again. And that's what they're doing. They're hitting it, and they're getting the angle right, and they're popping out. Most time it goes around the boards, but 4 times this playoffs, it's popped out in front. All 4 times have been goals.
And the Toronto defensemen, they froze for a moment, and let the Bruin player get behind them and score the winning goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and that's Toronto. Toronto is good at losing.
Yes, real quick, we had the Knights forcing to Game 7. I know Pags picked the Knights to maybe even make a big run here in the playoffs. What do you think, Pags? Are they going to win this last game?
The winner of that series is going to wind up in the Stanley Cup Finals. That is by far the best series that's happened up to this point. I think right now, you're going to see a great series between the Rangers and Carolina. But whoever wins this Dallas-Vegas game is going to the Stanley Cup. Dallas has got a really good shot. They've got a really good team. They just got a really bad spot by having to play the Stanley Cup champions in the 8th seed. And they've made it a much better series than I expected it to. I expected to see Vegas in 6. So the fact that this is going to Game 7, there's nothing better in sports than a Game 7 hockey, and then go to overtime. Like when you're at the edge of your seat, if you're Boston or Toronto, you're literally at the edge of your seat watching every play. And then you see something like that. What that happened with like 5 minutes into overtime, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a pretty quick overtime, but you'll sit there and watch it. You're just staring at the screen, just waiting for something to happen. There's nothing like it in sports. There's nothing like it in sports.
Real quick, we're at the top of the hour. Mystic Dan wins the Kentucky Derby and a photo finish, one of the most exciting finishes in history of the Derby, with 2 other horses. Edged him out at the end.
I tell you what, though, that Japanese horse, the way that he was running, unfortunately, he was in the downstroke and didn't come back up again, and that's why he came in 3rd. Expect him to win the next 2 races.
Very possible. So,
Yeah,
folks,
that's his first race that he's lost at all, and he really should have won that race. He got boxed out a little early. Same thing with the number 2 horse, got boxed out a little bit and then had to take the long route to come around. So I fully expect that Japanese horse is going to win the next 2 legs of this.
and let me tell you, jockeys do matter, and I think that's part of the reason why they won too. Folks, thanks for tuning in and joining us here on YouTube, and we'll be back later. Rebroadcast for those who won't see it on Roku. Follow Roku all day, every day for all day sports. Thanks to Keith Engel for joining us. James, they're all around. Utility guy that's always there for us. Sonia, our 3-pointer from the outside with her great information. Jack, who hogs the ball too much as always. And Pags, again, thank you for joining us. Doing a great job on the Philadelphia sports as always. Folks, have a great day. Enjoy your Sunday. Go to church. Be good people.